Right, testy, testy, wordsy, wordsy, test words, test words, test words. Is everything working? I hope everything's working because it's been a little bit of a while since I last did a stream. So if it's not, you guys get to shout at me, and that's always fun. I like when that gets to happen on a live stream. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We have a little bit of news to discuss, a little bit of fun news, a little bit of Leeds making some progress in the transfer market. Everyone was sort of looking at what Leeds had done so far and a little bit spooked and seeing that it wasn't much and how we didn't complete things back in what month was it? August, September? I don't know. Whichever one deadline day is. But we are looking to put that right now because, according to the man, the myth, the chosen boy is the way that I'm going to put it, Fabrizio Romano, Leeds United have apparently reached a verbal agreement to sign Facundo Buonanotte, currently out on loan at Brighton, well, out on loan at Chelsea, previously of Brighton and Hove Albion. He'll be leaving Chelsea to rejoin Brighton, and then will join Leeds. He'll move on loan until the end of the season, and he does his own whole "ooh, here we go soon" kind of thing, which is like a catchphrase. It's weird that a journalist has a catchphrase, right? I'm not the only one that thinks that. That is an absolutely insane thing to happen. But that seems to be the case on the way. I'm going to return to the face cam now. Oh my god, it's been so long since I've done this. I'm sorry if I'm making stupid rookie mistakes. I will continue to do that, but I don't intend to. I'm really, really, really sorry. I had a look, the last time I did a stream was the 20th of November or something absolutely insane like that. So my apologies. I promise I'm doing my best. Medical is today. Thank you for letting me know, James. Morning, Joe. Glad your strike of not streaming until we add players is over. Yes, that's the one. I'll say that it was that. It wasn't the fact that I added a player to my own little individual team. I say individual. It's a big team of three of us now and two pets. Um, but thank you. I'm glad to be back, and I will look to continue to do more of them as time goes on. This is more like it. Thought the rest of the transfer news was just noise. Honestly, I'm gonna say same. You probably got that impression from the video that I did earlier today, in which I had a look at the rumor that was spreading of Leeds or Leeds United going to be signing what's his stupid name, Jurgen Strand Larsen. To which my response was no, obviously no. Hello, Rich Bedford and Elite Warfare, by the way. Um, because that deal makes no sense for Wolves, for Strand Larsen, for us, because budgets. So obviously that one wasn't going to be happening. But we've now overcome that. I'll do a little bit more chatting on the sort of specific gists and the vibes and all that kind of stuff with the Athletics article, which states that we're close to completing the loan signing. Sources on Leeds and Brighton side speaking on the condition of anonymity to protect relationships. I like that Beran puts that in all of his articles now. That's quite clever because that is like a massive shield from anyone that goes, "Oh yeah, who's your source? Tell us your source, and then maybe I'll believe you." It's like, well, obviously I'm not going to tell you the source because if I told you the source, I wouldn't have the source anymore. I expect the proposed deal to be concluded after his loan was ended early to allow his move to Elland Road. This completely makes sense. We all had the same opinion, right? Hold on, the camera's a little bit wrong. Let's put it there. There we go. Now I'm in this segment rather than like here, which cuts with the chat thing. Everyone is of this opinion, right? That the Chelsea loan move was potentially the stupidest loan of all time. Everyone looked at that and went, why would you move there? Because if you have a look at Chelsea's squad, none of that screams Facundo Buonanotte is going to be playing a significant amount of football this season. And you know what? We were right. We were right because this is his data for the season. And if you have a look at his minutes for the season, oh my god, you've managed a grand total of 45 minutes of Premier League football, which, to be fair, in that time, 0.3 expected assists. that ain't too bad. That's a decent bit of passing in 45 minutes of football. And he's played a little bit of Champions League football, sure. But let's have a look at who those matches were against, shall we? If we can. No, hold on. Sorry. Just to be clear, I woke up like 20 minutes ago, and I'm going to be going back to sleep right after the press conference. So I thought I'd treat myself to a little bit of consciousness. But looking at these matches, right, you had Chelsea Benfica where he played 53 minutes. So even when he's being picked in the Champions League, he's not getting a bunch of minutes. He was picked against Lincoln in the AFL Cup because obviously you're going to get picked against Lincoln. It's Lincoln. He didn't even get to start against Qarabag, which has to be a little bit of a kick in the teeth. And then he's just played in the Carabao Cup, except he didn't play in the semi-final, which for him it has to be a little bit of a swift kick in the balls because it's like, well, sorry, I was doing all right in the Carabao, and that's all you were giving me. Why? But okay, that's where we're at. And then he played against Charlton, got an assist, and then is leaving unless Brighton is stupid enough to give him some minutes before he comes here, because that would stop him from leaving. But they won't do that because Brighton are clever boys. Anyway, hold on. I got lost. There we go. I've forgotten how to find the thing again. So that means that his numbers for the last calendar year, they don't look great, let's be honest. His time in the last calendar year of playing any football has been away on loan at two different clubs, one of which didn't play him, the other of which got relegated and wasn't performing. But that shouldn't necessarily be a damning indictment on Facundo Buonanotte. We know he's a good passer, we know he's good with the ball at his feet. I remember having a conversation with Locks prior to him coming to Leeds United, not to Leeds United, prior to him sort of scabbing us a little bit and eventually ending up at Chelsea, in which Locks was like, no, yeah, he's a really good player. I would like you to not have him because I like having good memories of him, which, Locks, he's ours now. But it does leave a very, very interesting question, right? And it's a question that a lot of people who have been asking. Just to sort of deal with what Michael has asked here, right? This isn't the big question, but this is a question that needs to be covered in a certain manner. Joe, why should Leeds take a player like Buonanotte who had the opportunity to come to Leeds United last summer but turned his nose up at the club when Chelsea came in for him? And that is because we can't offer footballers Champions League football. We just can't. That's the reality of the situation. We are not able to do that, and the odds of us being able to do that are effectively zero. So I'm not going to be too mad at a footballer who is like, for the sake of my career, I would like to play in the Champions League. Common sense, from Buonanotte's perspective, says you take the move to the club with Champions League football rather than the club that might get relegated. The situation now, Leeds are looking less likely to get relegated, but in addition to that, he's looking more likely to get some actual minutes on a football pitch if he stays at Leeds. So I think everything to him now will be saying, okay, I've fucked it. I've got an opportunity to fix things a little bit. In terms of where he fits, I think it's a little bit of a complicated one. He's a player that can play on the wing. He's a player that can play in the 10. He's a player that can occasionally play in the 8. For me, in the 3-5-2, he fits by us not playing as strict of a 3-5-2, if that makes sense. So I'm going to, in the background, I'm currently building a tactics board because I cannot emphasize how much I literally just woke up and therefore do not have any materials prepared. I'm like a substitute teacher at the minute. I'm like the guy that you're coming to because the press conference isn't quite happening yet. Which is fine. I fully appreciate this is my role. I remember being called the substitute teacher of Leeds United YouTube, and I understand. And I embrace my role. Right, there we go. Let's go over to Monitor 2. Bosh. So, this is a rough sort of 3-5-2 vibe. Let's be honest, these play a little bit higher, so I'll move these higher. There we go. what I see Buonanotte as doing, all of this midfield is too high. So let's drop this a little bit. But this also exaggerates what Buonanotte's role is, which is to be a sort of 10, in my opinion. But it also means when we do the other version of a 3-5-2, also on what Rich has said, that question is sort of moot a lot of the time, because the difference between a 10, which is here, and an attacking 8, which is here, is essentially not much. It's effectively how much defensive work do you do, and in our system, anyone that we get in is going to have to do a significant proportion of the defensive work, which is fine. He's not going to mind that, but that's okay. Is he any good at free kicks? Not checked yet. I think he's fairly good at free kicks. But when it comes to the system that we played sometimes where it's nominally a 3-5-2-ish, where everyone says, it's more of a 3-4-3, because you've got Noah Okafor and you've got Brendan Aronson. Sure, it is a little bit more 3-4-3, but I've always envisioned it as a little bit of this, in which technically, yes, we're talking a 3-4-3, but it's not a wide 3-4-3. It's not with wingers. It's more, I don't want to say dense, because that feels mean, but it's a more condensed side. So it's more a case of these players get to play off Calvert-Lewin, which I really, really like. But it also means that we can trust them to go wider. Because Brendan Aronson, a lot of the time, yes, he would play in the wider positions. He's not nominally a winger, which is, for me, the fundamental difference between a Buonanotte and a Brendan Aronson. Because Aronson is more a 10. Buonanotte in the past has been more a winger. So I completely understand us being in a situation right now where we're like, cool, let's get an actual winger on board, but the winger can also be a 10. But a little bit of me is envisioning a world, right? A very, very fancy world where this guy, who I'm going to call Facundo Buonanotte for the funsies, plays in here. And this guy, who I'm going to call Brendan Aronson for the funsies, plays in here. And we are not playing a 3-4-3, we're playing more of a 3-4-2-1. Which I think could be a genuinely interesting approach to it, because the thing that I like about Aronson recently is when he is on the pitch, he is not strictly playing as a 10, and he's not strictly playing on the wing, because this boyo right here, this incorrigible lad, Jayden Bogle, he doesn't play here, he plays about here, which means that Rodon plays about here, which means that this happens. I don't hate this, because someone can come out here and it looks more like a 4-2-3-1. And I think that signing of Buonanotte means that you don't just have Aronson doing this floaty job in here somewhere. It means that you've got Aronson doing the floaty job, but you've also got Buonanotte doing a floaty job. Because guess who's on this flank? Oh, it's Gabby Goodmanson. Bang! Because he doesn't show restraint either. He's also a nutcase. Which means that your three defenders do a little bit of width, because we know that Pascal likes playing a little bit wide and he can go a little bit high sometimes, and that's nice as well. And then you've got Ethan Ampadu, who's like, no, cool, I can defend as well. This is fine. I can go anywhere in here, and it adds so much more fluidity to the system. And it's a fluidity, I'll be honest, I really, really, really like. So I think Facundo Buonanotte as a signing, it just makes sense. And I think adding that flexibility, that movement, that ability to flow a little bit more, it works. So the question, in my opinion, isn't would you start him before Aronson? It's how effective is Facundo Buonanotte as a tool in Daniel Farke's tool belt? That is my press conference alarm that I had initially set. I wasn't planning on being awake right now, but here we are, awake right now, talking about tactical things. So it's more flowing with Buonanotte. It's more flexible, it's more open, it's more doing stuff, which I really, really like, and it's hopefully going to lead us to some very, very nice situations and positions, and it's going to lead us to Premier League safety, which I believe is going to be the case. Just to clear up as well, I've realised I have not said this out loud, Very, very obviously, I will do what I can to redirect to the press conference. I will, at the very least, have ended before the press conference happens. It would not make sense for me to just keep plowing on um, through the presser and just be like, "Oh yeah, why is everyone gone? Oh man, I can't believe it. There's some weird new German YouTuber in the space. What a bizarre time." Uh, um, but not only that, but I will be around for a little bit post presser as well. I will not be here. However, I will be over in the magical land, the land that some of you may not be aware of. It's truly a beautiful place, the land of Big Up. I've popped the link on there. I'll be chatting to Joe over there a little bit about the presser, a little bit about, let's be honest, stuff and nonsense. We do that sometimes. A little bit about just general football things, a little bit about the press conference, a little bit about Buonanotte, all sorts. So if you fancy a little bit of more in-depth discussion, hop over there. It'll be a good time. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm now just we're gonna do questions corner. I know we're bringing back all the favourites right now. It's great. Joe wouldn't be prone to take a loan players, particularly when we've had loan players and they've done well, like Ben White. Brighton wouldn't sell him to Leeds, Solomon went elsewhere. I don't think that's the right approach for loan players, to be honest with you. I think when it comes to footballers, there's two things that you need to consider. And it's sort of interestingly a question of what role you are willing to play as a club. And it's not going to be a case of, like, do you feel like you're above getting players in on loan? Because that's stupid, because clearly no team is feeling like they're above taking players on loan. Chelsea did it with the exact same player. It's more, do you feel like you need to be the end destination for any given footballer? And for me, I think if you get into your head that Leeds needs to be where players finish their journey, then sure, that makes sense. But sometimes players don't need to be permanent signings. They need to be, get them in. They are tools to do a job, and they will take us to our destination. Our destination in this case being Premier League survival. And that is fine. For someone to do that is all we necessarily need at the moment. We don't need someone to come in and we sign them permanently and they're brilliant and we sell them to Barcelona. We don't need someone to be Rafinha. In this case, we need Facundo Buonanotte to be Facundo Buonanotte and do Buonanotte things and play at his standard and create some chances, score a couple of goals, maybe not even get a ton of minutes because Aronson's been real good. But at the moment, that provides a decent bit of competition for Noah Okafor because it feels like Okafor has been able to look at the situation and go, well, Dan James is injured. Nonto doesn't necessarily fit the system because it's a fairly physical system. I'm fine. Having Buonanotte also in the background goes, well, you're not. Because now we've got an alternative, which is, what if the system changes? And what if we decide to play with two tens instead? And that could be something that's quite interesting and points in the right direction. On that, Paul, he is okay as far as I am aware. He's going through a little bit of a personal thing at the moment that I feel isn't my space to talk about, but he's doing all right as far as I am aware. I know that is vague, but that is vague for a reason, and that is vague because I don't know what stuff he has talked about and feels comfortable talking about. He did a video recently that's talking about sort of his personal stuff surrounding what's going on at the moment. I recommend watching that and then getting an idea of where he's at. Also, he keeps people updated on Instagram and stuff. I just don't know what's discussing on YouTube, if that makes sense. Hopefully we get the best of Facundo, hoping to catch the eye of the Argentina coach. The weird thing is, right, let's have a look at the Argentina squad. The Argentina squad is a weird place at the minute because it's in this sort of transitional moment. If you're an Argentina player, you are trying to be part of this next generation because it's coming to the end of one generation. Having a look at the age of the players in the squad, um, at least the following players were called up to the friendly match against Angola on the 14th of November. Cool. Walter Benitez is 32, Rulli 33, Tagliafico 33, Otamendi 37, Senesi 28, Kevin McAllister. You cannot be called the guy from Home Alone and be an international footballer. That just doesn't happen. Also 28. Rodrigo de Paul's 31. Lo Celso is 29. You've got Buendia, who's 29. You've got Alexis McAllister, who's 27, so he's not quite in that group. Messi, 38. And then Nico Gonzalez, 27. The rest are relatively young-ish. Lautaro Martinez, 28. You are looking at a squad that is in such a churn moment and such a moment of, well, a young player has an opportunity to get in here, that Buonanotte does have a chance to get into the next squad. Maybe not the World Cup, because this is going to be the situation of Rodrigo de Paul looking at it and going, well, this is going to be my last World Cup regardless, which obviously means that he's not really going to do an international retirement or anything. But if you have a look at the amount of caps that are held by their forward line, Jose Manuel Lopez, 2. Panicelli, 1. Prestiani, 1. Like, there's a hell of a lot of players in there that haven't played a ton of football, but they've also got Dybala, who's 32. Correa, who's 30. There is space for young, promising Argentinian talent to push their way into the squad, maybe in time for the World Cup. That feels like it's pushing it, because you've got the likes of Echeverri, who was signed by Man City. You've got Mastantuono, who is a football manager legend, so I was very sad when he went to Real Madrid. But there's a hell of a lot of decent footballers that will be trying to push their way into a World Cup squad, and for me, Buonanotte is part of that. He's a fairly significant part of that, because he knows that, well, I can always push past these players that are just youth opportunity players at Real Madrid, at Manchester City, that aren't going to play a significant number of minutes. And if he can get a significant number of minutes in the Premier League at Leeds United and impress us whilst he's here, then who knows, he could go to the World Cup. But that's an opportunity for him to grab, and that's an opportunity that we can put him in the position to grab, and ultimately we can end up pointing him in that direction. That'd be absolutely lovely. And I'm assuming, in the event that he does end up in that direction after a bit of a stint at Leeds United, it means that Leeds United will be safe. So I'm down for that entire situation, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out with a little bit of a poll. It's not going to be an actual poll. It's going to be a... Hold on, I've got a little bit of glare on the screen. Ooh, that's because the sun is sneaking through the curtains. That is because I can't be bothered doing a proper poll. So, if you are in the chat right now, please spam the number 1. If you think this is going to be a good move for Leeds, the number 2 if you think this is going to be a bad move for Leeds, and the number 3 if you are yet to be convinced in any given direction. Because I think this is a fairly interesting move. It could go good, it could go bad. I kind of want to know where we're at, but I also want to make sure that everyone here has the opportunity to go over to the presser in a minute's time. Admittedly, it doesn't open it. In fact, can you put a yes if you just want me to go all the way up to, like, a minute before the presser, or go until the stream opens for the press conference? Because I can do that. Like, I can just wait until the press conference starts. It's up to you guys. How do you spam? You just send it a few times, I guess. I don't know. Sorry, I got attacked by the trailer thing that happens on the press conference. No. Oh my god. Sorry, I've not been had chance to properly watch a press conference since, like, the baby arrived. I'm not naming the baby because I have set myself a rule that I'm not going to. But right, I hadn't seen that this has happened. This is this right? Is this the first time that this has happened? because this is both devastating and hilarious. Just to bring a little bit of context, is this new? Is this the first time that they have turned the chat to members only mode? I like that Side Before Self has become a member purely to put something in the chat. But it's the first time that it's done members only mode on the press conferences. Because that's hilarious. Because that means that they've basically gone, oh, cool, revenue stream. Oh, I love those chats. They were such a weird, toxic cesspool where everyone was basically screaming, sack everyone! Everyone! I don't like anyone at the club having a job. Oh, man. That's kind of a shame. It was the most toxic place on the internet, but it was hilarious. There was something fundamentally wrong about that place. Don't get me wrong. It was not pleasant, but it was funny, and you could give it that. The fact that like from time to time you'd be able to like be in a conversation with someone and be like, I can bait you into saying the stupidest stuff. The stupidest stuff. Sorry, I've had like 4 hours of sleep, which isn't enough. But as I mentioned, it's a case of get up, do my stream, watch the presser, go on Big Up, which the link I have put in the chat. Ooh, go over there after the press conference. It's going to be a good time. In fact, just open the link now, and then we'll start talking to you afterwards. You'll be like, oh my god, where's that tab? And it'll be a tab that you've had open since before the press conference. And then I'm going to go back to bed afterwards, and that's going to be lovely. It was worse than X. Oh, it comfortably was. It was like at least there's some positivity over on the hole known as Twitter. But from the poll that was done, it's so weird to call it a poll when it's just a bunch of numbers. A heck of a lot of ones, which is very, very nice. I'm glad to see that a lot of people are excited about the move. 0 2s, which is quite nice. Also, Top Cut Dan, this is the first time I've been live since November. So that would be why. We had a baby, which meant that I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to take some time not streaming because it's incredibly difficult to do a stream after having a child. Because I've been doing the night shift, which means that I've been waking up at like 5 p.m., spending a few hours of eating and then family bits, and then I will look after the baby overnight. She's getting better at sleeping more consistently now in the nighttime. But it's a little bit of a case of okay, but I'm not exactly going to do a stream at 3 in the morning because no one's going to be here. So what's the point? So I've just not done streams for a while. But in this case, I woke up to my lovely wife sending me the news of Facundo Buonanotte to Leeds United, and I was like, I'm going to be all over that. I'm gonna jump on that, and it's going to be lovely. So here we are, decided to do that, and yeah, ready to go. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I am going to, before I go, see if... Why? Ooh, that's fun. Okay, the stream is now up, which is interesting, which I'm going to see if I can do a redirect on my end. If not, I'm just going to end and then shout, everyone go over there. If I search for videos on other channels, Daniel Barker. Oh my god, I cannot redirect over to Leeds. That's annoying. Anyway, I'm gonna dip. Everyone head over to the Leeds channel now. And then after that, everyone head over to Big Up. That's going to be a lovely time. Hope you all enjoyed. And for the first time in 2026, I will see you later. Toodaloo. Where's my end screen? Where's my end screen? Ah!